like old times, doesn't it?
Now you're talking playoff football.
I'll tell you.
Wellington Mara always said, once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
Giants Nation, 96% of you watching aren't subscribed yet. If you're loving the Big Blue Breakdowns, hit that subscribe button and join the team.
Giants fans, thanks for joining me for another episode of Only a Giant. We have a Seattle Seahawks, New York Giants preview here today. New York Giants obviously 1-3 at this point, and the Seattle Seahawks are 3-1. Like I mentioned, obviously, thanks for joining me here. If you could, please like and subscribe here. I really would appreciate it, trying to get this podcast growing a little bit if we can. So let's just jump right in, guys. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks are 3-1. But you kind of got to look at the teams that they've played and everything at this point. So they beat the Denver Broncos week 1, 26-20 at home. They beat the New England Patriots 23-20 on the road. They did beat the Miami Dolphins, who at that point had a backup quarterback, and then they lost to Detroit last week. So a 3-1 team. Albeit this might not be the most impressive 3-1 team, I guess, if you will. We'll kind of see what happens there, obviously, with this game. But I guess let's just jump into the Seattle Seahawks team in general. And I always like to start this with just looking at their depth chart a little bit. So obviously at quarterback, we have Geno Smith. And I'll get into a little bit more of Geno Smith after I go through the rest of this. I have a little side tangent here with Geno. Running backs, you have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, who has been killing it lately. Obviously, their wide receivers, DK Metcalf, backed up by Jake Bobo, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is playing very well right now at this point, and then Tyler Lockett as well. Tight ends, nothing spectacular here, I would say, with Noah Fant, but still a solid tight end. And then your offensive line, you're looking at Charles Cross, who was somebody that we were looking at when we drafted Evan Neal, Lincoln Tomlinson. Center is Connor Williams, guy from Dallas, if you remember him. Anthony Bradford and Stone Forsythe. That's the offense in the offensive line right there. Defense goes over to Jaron Reed, our old friend Jonathan Hankins, our old friend Leonard Williams, Uchenna Nwosu, and Tyrell Dodson, Jerome Baker, old Ohio State guy, played for Miami for a little while. Boye Mafe, if you remember him, I believe he played for the Baltimore Ravens for a little while. Tariq Woolen, cornerback. Rayshawn Jenkins at the safety position, along with Julian Love, Trey Brown, and then Devin Witherspoon. So a lot of players we're very familiar with here. Obviously, Devin Witherspoon last year had that big pick six on Daniel Jones. Pretty much said he baited him. He knew what he was going to do. He wasn't going to get off his first read. Obviously, we're very familiar with Leonard Williams. We traded him last year in the draft, I should say, actually during the season last year. And then throw in Julian Love, we're very familiar with as well. Jonathan Hankins, we have experience with. So kind of a deep team, I would say. They definitely have some notable talent on this team. And I guess what I want to get into next before I really jump into, because I always like to look at the stats as well. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is maybe just a me rant thing here. Smith is probably one of the quarterbacks I dislike the most in the NFL. And this isn't even related to Eli. Obviously, a big thing with especially with the Giants is when Geno was our backup one of the years with Eli Manning, and famously Ben McAdoo benched Eli Manning and threw in Geno Smith, and then started him, ending Eli Manning's consecutive start streak. That sucked. I don't really put that on Geno. That's more of a Ben McAdoo thing, and whether he was right or wrong or whatever, I think it ultimately led to him getting fired. But my Geno Smith hate actually stems from his time with the New York Jets. Obviously, he was drafted by the Jets in the second round, I believe. Second or third. I want to say second, and came out of West Virginia, I believe, as well. And this was a player, obviously, who was the starter for the Jets at that point. And another player on the team who I believe was an undrafted free agent, I'm not going to confirm that. I believe that's what it was. Had convinced Geno to, hey, he's going to come to a camp. He's going to come to a camp he's holding for kids. And Geno Smith was going to be at that. I think his name was Ike Bali, I think is something along those lines. And he offered up to pay Gino's ticket to get the flight there and everything. And you want to know what happened? Geno Smith didn't show up for the camp. Now, if you look at some like more recent articles on this, they actually say that Gino's brother got in a car accident or a motorcycle accident, and that's why he didn't show up. To be completely honest with you, I don't really care why he didn't show up. Quite honestly, I don't care. Things happen. That's life. People make mistakes. People overplan, especially when you're in the NFL. I'm sure your schedule's kind of jam-packed. I get it. You know, this was training camp time, I believe, somewhere around there. So him and IK, I believe was his first name, agreed that, hey, you know, he's at least going to reimburse me for the ticket, reimburse him for the ticket. Gino was. And Gino just kept pushing it off. Finally, they come to the agreement that, hey, you're going to pay for half the ticket. Gino, what do? Kept pushing him off. And finally being like, what are you going to do if I don't pay? And I mean, dude, you are a second round pick, a quarterback. First off, horrible leadership in my mind, you know, with the rest of your team. And then just being a dick like that, like, I hate that. That's horrible. So he essentially says, what are you going to do if I don't pay you? And this linebacker socks him in the face, breaks his jaw, has to get his jaw wired shut, if I remember correctly. I think he was out for like 6 or 8 weeks or something like that. Now, you don't ever really want to condone somebody getting punched in the face. I don't condone that either. But at the same time, good for you kind of at that point. Honestly, I really disliked what Gino did there. And ever since then, I've kind of had a sour taste in my mouth with Geno Smith. Does it matter? No one really gives two shits what I think. But I've always kind of been I'm not a fan of Gino ever since, to be completely honest with you. So it's tough for me. Anytime that we play Seattle, I want to just destroy him specifically. You know, I hope we get multiple sacks on him and make him flustered and beat the crap out of him. They got us last year, and we'll see what happens this year. But I guess let's look at the stats for the Seattle Seahawks after my little rant there, a little tangent. And then we'll kind of get into a little bit more of what I think the offense needs to do, what I think the defense needs to do, 3 keys, and then the player of the game, and then a score prediction. We'll see what happens there. For the Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith currently is completing 72% of his passes for 1,100 yards, 1,182. He has thrown 4 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 4 interceptions. Been sacked 11 times as well. Has a quarterback rating of 91.2, so he's playing pretty good ball right now, unfortunately, for me. Rushing the ball here, Kenneth Walker, 32 carries for 183 yards, 5.7 average. And then Zach Charbonnet, 42 carries for 156 yards and 3 touchdowns, 4 for Kenneth Walker. So when they get in the end zone, man, they're punching the ball in through the run game. Something that I hope we can stop there. Geno Smith does apparently also have 16 carries for 75 yards, which is and a touchdown, which is interesting. And then the big part of their offense, obviously, because they're throwing the ball all over the place right now, is DK Metcalf. He has 24 receptions for 366 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jackson Smith and Jegba, 25 catches, 226 yards, no touchdowns. But it's good to see him a little bit more involved in this offense. He is a player I really liked coming out of the draft, who was just not really used very much last year or well last year until the end of the year. Don't mind me here. I'm drinking a little tea. I'm a little under the weather, I guess, maybe a little bit. Little peppermint tea here. Thank you. Other than that, Noah Fant, 15 catches. Zach Charbonnet, Noah Fant, 11 catches. Zach Charbonnet, 15 catches. Tyler Lockett, 18 catches. Nothing of note kind of really behind that. Defensively, Tyrell Dotson has a sack. Derek Hall has 4 sacks. Boye Mafe has 3 sacks. Jaron Reed has 2 sacks. And really kind of just a couple other smatterings of sacks kind of mixed in. They have 14 sacks on the year. And then as far as interceptions go, they actually only have 2, one by Julian Love and one by Tariq Woolen. So they're not really getting their hands on the ball much. Granted, neither are we. But their main scoring right now really is led by their kicker, Jason Myers, been in the league forever, has 28 points, done a really good job kicking the ball this year so far. And he's actually 6 for 8. 2 of his misses, though, were 50-plus yards. So that's a little bit about what they have going on offensively right now. I guess at this point, what we'll do is we'll kind of jump into what we can expect with the Giants offensively. Obviously, at this point, it sounds like, and I don't have confirmation of this yet. I haven't seen the injury report released for today, but it looks like Malik Neighbors may not go today. And that's going to be a big blow to the Giants offense. Seattle's defense does rank 14th against the run, 9th against the pass. Obviously, the teams they've played been a little bit subpar, I would say. Obviously, your quarterbacks are Bo Nix, Tyler Huntley for Miami, I think is who it was, and New England's quarterback, and then obviously Detroit with Jared Goff. Obviously, Goff played pretty well against them, but not a lot of like pass heavy offenses, kind of ground heavy offenses, I guess, if you will. So I'm a little bit unsure of what to make with those statistics. I think ultimately what I want to see in this game is a little bit more commitment to the run by the Giants. Last week we tried to do that, but for some reason we got away from what works. We got away from duo. We need to get back to duo. Double those defensive linemen, then have that or center kick up to the next guy or whoever's doing it, kick up to the linebacker to get to the second level and make some positive runs here and kind of establish the running game a little bit. We cannot do what we did last week. Now, whether that is Devin Singletary or if it's going to be Tyrone Tracy, whatever happens there, I'm okay with. I'm not really someone that wants to see Eric Gregg a lot of carries. I don't trust his fumbling issues. I think, unfortunately, he's probably worse than Devin Singletary. But I would love to see Tyrone Tracy get some carries in this game. And if for some reason Devin Singletary cannot play, I want Tyrone Tracy to start over Eric Gregg. And I'd love to even see Dante Turbo Miller get called up in this game. I think that would be something cool to see and give him a couple carries, give him a screen, see if he can make something happen. This is an aggressive defense, and I think if we take advantage of that, that may be a way that we can win this game. Other thing I want to see some RPOs with Daniel Jones. He needs to use his legs in this game. And obviously, like I already mentioned, get back to the bread and butter of what has worked in the running game. Now, wide receiver wise, and this is the kind of killer right here, I think. It sounds like Malik Neighbors may not play. It sounds like he's still going through concussion protocol, and he has not cleared that yet. That's going to be a big issue in this game. This offense is pretty much ran solely through him. Kind of think of the old days when we had Saquon Barkley last year or the year prior, when we were running the offense through him, and then all of a sudden he gets hurt. The offense just cannot recover. At least this time, they seem to have some preparation in place for that, and we have a little bit of depth at wide receiver. My assumption would be that Darius Slayton would kick over to the 1, Jalen Hyatt would kick up to 2, and then so on and so on. Other thing that could happen is maybe Bryce Ford Wheaton gets a start, and we see if he can do anything, have any positive impacts. He's still going to have to do special teams. He's kind of a key component on the special team side, but my assumption is all these guys will get some type of targets or some type of snap share, and I do hope that. Obviously, I hope that Jalen Hyatt gets a good look here, and I hope that Bryce Ford Wheaton gets some looks. And let's see if a wide receiver can step up. Is there somebody else that may step up? I don't know. But what's going to happen there, and who's going to step up, if anybody? Can someone be a consistent target other than Wan'Dale Robinson with Malik Neighbors out for Daniel Jones? Remains to be seen. We have not seen that this year, but also it's kind of tough to see that when pretty much the whole offense is run through Malik Neighbors. So I think in this game, we really probably need to stick to grounding this game out, keep it short if we can, kind of like last week with Dallas. This is kind of a potent offense that we're facing. So if we can keep the ball offensively, keep the clock moving, if the short game's working, awesome. Keep that going as well. We dominated the time of possession last week, and I think we kind of need to do that again. But who's going to step up? Who's going to help Daniel Jones here keep this game going? And obviously, this is kind of the elephant in the room. We need to connect on a freaking deep ball or two. Give Jalen Hyatt a chance. I actually love that we actually gave Jalen Hyatt a chance at the end of the game against Dallas. He wasn't able to make a play. He was double covered, but just throw the ball up, give him a chance. Obviously, you're looking for single high safety and one-on-one coverage and see if we can take advantage of their corners or Julian Love, who isn't the fastest guy in the world. See if we can get over in time. I'd love to see us take a couple chances again down the field and try to give Daniel Jones a chance to connect on those. Gonna go a little bit more tea here. Don't mind my pumpkin cat coffee mug here, or tea mug, whatever you want to call it. going with a little peppermint tea here with a little bit of honey in it as well. Like you said, trying to kind of loosen up the throat here, if you will. Does wonders. Does wonders. All right. So, Giants defensively. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, this Seattle team does like to throw the ball all over the place. They get into third and shorts, and then they pound the ball. They have two great running backs who can catch the ball, who can run with power. Kenneth Walker, some of the more impressive runs that I saw last week against Detroit. If you don't recall, he did like a somersault at one point. Just him and David Montgomery are like the power running backs of this league right now. So yeah, two solid, capable running backs, a solid offensive line. Charles Cross, I don't think he's been great, but he's still a decent in pass protection. I think the biggest thing I need to take away from this game is, at least defensively for the Giants, is we need to shoot the gaps. Anytime they do run the ball, try to get into a stop for loss or a very short gain so that we can force some third and longs and take advantage of Geno Smith. Like I mentioned earlier, he has thrown 4 interceptions this year against, I guess defensive teams, I guess if you will, but obviously he's been putting the ball in harm's way a little bit this year. So if we can shoot the gaps, and this may kind of lead into my player of the game, but I'll come back to that in a moment. If we can shoot the gaps, keep the run game to minimal gains, and maybe that's going to be the tough part because our run defense has not been great. But we have been good in the red zone, and they do like to pound the ball in the red zone. That's where most of their touchdowns have come from this year. We need to stop the run when they do run the ball and hopefully force some third and longs to make Geno make some mistakes, disguise some coverages if we can. I'd be okay with blitzing a little bit more in this game as opposed to Dallas last week where I felt like we could not blitz at all in that game. And we did blitz a little bit against Dallas still, but maybe more than, I don't know. And at the end of the day here, guys, we just need to really do our best here to force Geno Smith into making some mistakes. I think he is capable of making those mistakes, and face it, guys, you got to take advantage of that. What else? So that's really all I'm going to say about the defense. I mean, there's some obvious stuff in there. We need to get pressure with Kayvon Thibodeau. We need to get Brian Burns going. We need to get Dexter Lawrence getting some pressure in there. And one thing I really haven't seen a lot this year, and it frustrates me a little bit, is we've been beat quite a bit by the short passing game, just to kind of nullify the pass rush. Get your freaking hands up. Get your hands up. Throw them in the air. I don't care. Whatever. You get your hand in the air if they're going to start throwing the ball short with those, low depth of target, stuff of that nature. We need to get the hands in the air to try to bat down some of those throws. We were really good at that a couple years ago. I haven't seen it at all this year, and that's something to me that I think is kind of an obvious thing especially when you're playing the short passing games and stuff like that. Get your hands up. If they're going to do that, get your hands up, defensive line. What else? Probably, and I want to save that because he's the key to my game. But Bobby Okereke, obviously, you need to step up a little bit more. I think I'm hoping right around now is when we'll start seeing an improvement in his game. He's been okay. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been bad, but he's been okay. But he hasn't been the leader like he was last year. But if you remember the first few weeks of the season, he kind of looked lost, kind of looked not great. And then he kind of sparked it a little bit and started to play much better. So I think that's what's going to happen here. I hope he's getting comfortable right now. So 3 things that I think need to happen to get a win here against the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, this is a road game. These are tough games. 4:00 game, 1:00 Pacific, obviously, but are really tough across the trip, across the country trip here. I think we need to win the turnover battle. We need to at least get 2 turnovers in this game and win that turnover battle. Seattle is 28th in the league in interceptions thrown. Geno Smith, obviously 4 of them. So that's something that I think we really need to take advantage of here and try to bait him into some stuff, some bad throws, some bad decisions, and see if we can, bat a ball in the air and get an interception, something like that. We need to get some turnovers. We need to win the turnover battle in this game. I think it's crucial. Next, be the smarter, less penalized team. Seattle is ranked 26th in the league, averaging 8 penalties per game. That's a lot. We haven't been penalized nearly as much. I think we've had probably some worse timely penalties, but we need to be the smarter team, the less penalized team. This team is aggressive. That they're pretty cocky, to be completely honest with you as well. You know they're going to come into this game trying to jump routes, trying to do everything they can to get into Daniel Jones' head. Don't let it happen. Play smart football, play sound football, be the least penalized team, and I think we have a chance. Number 3. Who's going to step up in Malik Neighbors' shoes? Obviously, it sounds like at this point he's not going to play. It sounds like Adoree may not be playing. It sounds like Drew Phillips may not be playing, although I don't know that officially yet. But who's going to step up? Is it going to be Jalen Hyatt? Is he going to get some more snaps, and is he going to take advantage of it? He hasn't yet. He hasn't really gotten the targets either. Bryce Ford Wheaton going to step up? Is Darius Slayton going to show why he shouldn't be traded and really how important he is to this team? I think he can. I don't know who's going to be that guy that's going to step up though, and that's my worry for this. But if we have depth at this position like we feel like we have, we know who Wandell is, and I'm comfortable with that. But we need another wide receiver to step up, and we'll see. This is probably. I don't want to say that nobody's done it yet, because this offense has run so heavily through Malik Neighbors that I don't think there's been another receiver that's really had a lot of opportunity. Obviously, Darius Slayton has dropped a few passes and had some issues here and there this year, but nobody's really had the chance to be a big part of this offense other than Malik Neighbors and the running backs, quite honestly. So who's going to step up? Those are my 3 keys to this game. Win the turnover battle, be the smarter, less penalized team, and who's the wide receiver that's going to step up on this team? Now, my key player of this game, and maybe you've caught on to it. Yeah, I haven't said his name on purpose, but that's Micah McFadden. Dude's been flying all over the field since he's been back. He's got like a 90 overall PFF grade, a little bit over. He's one of the best defenders in the league when you look at that. He's been playing awesome. We need you again here, man. We need you to shoot the gaps. We need you to get in the backfield, get your hands up, swat some balls out, get a sack, create some type of turnover play here. And when they do run the ball, try to get some tackles in the backfield, keep them for short gains so that they can get into some 3rd and longs here and make this a disruptive game for you. I think, man, you've been flying all over the field this year. I got to be honest with you, I doubted you a little bit this year, kind of coming in and whether you were going to be a big part of this defense or not. I wasn't sure, but you've been balling out. Keep it up. Ball out again. Get us a win here. Let's get back to 2-3 and see what we have kind of moving forward here. Whew, that's what I got here, guys. So last part here, always the tricky part here. Score prediction. Week 1, week 2, I picked the Giants. Didn't work. Week 3, I picked against the Giants with the Browns, and I was wrong. Week 4, I picked Dallas because I felt like, hey, it worked last week. Let's do it again. So this week, I'm getting back to the roots, back to what I actually think is going to happen. And guys, I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, the bearer of bad news, but I don't have high expectations for this game. It's a road game. It's a defense that seems to know Daniel Jones very well, and kind of has his number a little bit. Granted, obviously it's a new coaching staff and everything, but these guys know Daniel Jones, and I'm pretty worried about this game. I got to be honest with you, especially without Malik Neighbors. That's going to be a key loss in this game, and I think inevitably it leads to a kind of a rough game here, guys. I hate to do it, but I'm going 28 Seattle, 6 New York Giants. I just don't think they're going to be able to move the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to get the ball going with any type of consistency. I think Daniel Jones is going to throw a few picks in this game, and we start to hear the boo birds a little bit more, and maybe Drew Lock starts getting talked to. Maybe he gets in a little bit at the end of this game. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't have a great feeling about this game. I want to show off a little bit, one more thing here before we end the show here. I don't see a lot of this stuff here. I just want to show off my Giants tat here. Love the New York Giants. My boy Ethan hooked me up with this tattoo here. Well, didn't hook me up for it. I paid for it. But I always wanted a Giants tattoo. I already have a couple tattoos. And you know what? I thought, I love this team no matter what, even through the ups and downs. And you want to know what? If I'm willing to get this tattoo when this team is still pathetic and I'm not regretting it, I think that means it was right. So just wanted to share that with you guys here. Something I just got recently. Other than that, guys, let's go Big Blue. Let's hope we get a win this weekend, this Sunday. Other than that, though, guys, we'll be back next week with a review episode, and we'll kind of start the whole cycle over again. Hope you have a great weekend. Let's go Big Blue. Thanks, guys.
Ay, give me the chip. I need the championship. Wait, we got a dream next to the team. Yeah, we can handle it. Wait, soon as I go and I step in arenas, they call me the champ. They know what it is.